Who am I? This is my autobiography. Growing up, I looked up to my sister and I really wanted to follow in her footsteps. My sister and I are 15 years apart, and although I was very young, I just remember riding with my parents to drop my sister off to college, and I was really excited because my parents were excited. You know, I really didn't know the extent of what was going on, but I did know that something good was happening, and I also knew that I wouldn't be seeing her for a while, so that kind of made me sad. But once I began to get older, I started to understand, you know, that this was a part of her education. You know, I still didn't know exactly what college was or anything like that, but I knew that it had something to do with her education, and I was very proud of her. I wanted to be just like her. I couldn't wait to grow up and go to college. I couldn't wait to go away and for my parents to drop me off. You know, she was very influential in my goals in life. I looked up to her reading. She read all kind of books, you know, and I wanted to read those books, and I did, and I loved them. You know, and I have kind of gotten away from reading, but I want to get back into reading. Reading is therapeutic, it's knowledge, you know, it's all of those things. And I thank her. I thank her for that. I'm glad that she was, you know, 15 years older than me, because she was able to kind of help guide me in a way that I won't say that my parents couldn't, but just in a different way. In the meantime, it was just my parents and I. I really felt like the only child at the time. We went to church every single Sunday. We went to special events that my church had. Like, everything was about church. I joined the church choir, and from there, my life began to change. My church choir, like, we really, really bonded. We became a family. We did everything together. We laughed together. We fought together. We went on vacations together. We went out to eat together. We sang all over the Atlanta area. We did community service together, and we just had each other's back no matter what. We were really each other's support system. The older I got, the more I began to appreciate those relationships that were being built, you know, during that time. And to this day, even though people have grown and got married, moved away, we are still very close. We're still a family. Even so that with my real family, they come around even with my real family. You know, it's not a separate thing. And that's what I love about it. It's the fact that we built these relationships. And so now, everything is integrated. Whenever my family, my real family, is celebrating something, my church family is there. You know, it could be graduations, it could be baby showers, it could be weddings, it could be birthdays, it could be promotions. Whatever the situation is, my church family is always there. We're always there for each other, even to this day. Moving on to some political factors that have kind of shaped my identity. I was very ignorant to politics growing up. I didn't know too much. The first thing I remember about politics is the whole Bill Clinton scandal. It was plastered all over the news, and it was being talked about everywhere. Now, of course, I still didn't know the extent of what was going on. I didn't know the details or anything like that. But I knew that something wasn't quite right. Talking about the president, you know, they were talking about the president. So I knew something bad had happened. You know, but the next thing that caught my attention was 9/11. 9/11 was a very scary situation for me because I was in 6th grade. And I didn't know what was going on. You know, I just remember my principal making an announcement. My teacher turned the TV on, and we saw live footage of what was going on. And it was a very scary situation because we didn't know if they were going to target Atlanta next. We didn't know, you know, for all I knew, they were coming to terrorize my school. Like, I really didn't know. I was really scared. I was 11 years old. And so you can imagine, you know, what was running through my mind at the time. Very scary situation. Later on, I say the next thing that happened was Obama. So this was very, very special to me. The election in 2008. It was very special because it was the very first election that I was able to participate in. And it was even more special because I was able to vote for somebody that looked just like me. And, you know, in the past, that was never an option, you know, whether I was able to vote or not. It was not an option to vote for somebody of color. It wasn't even an option to vote for a woman, you know. So at that moment, I was very proud of America because I'm like, okay, we have this man of color here. And, you know, it just seemed different. It just seemed like America was finally ready to change some things, you know. I will say after the whole 9/11 thing, we know the war on terror happened. And so after that, things in America got kind of crazy. It was very chaotic. The economy went down. People were losing jobs. People were losing homes. Banks were going bankrupt. And so I think America had had enough. They were ready for a change. And I was glad that I was able to be a part of that change in that moment. Moving on to some cultural and social factors in my life. My family is very, very important. So just like my church family, like my real family, like they are like my heart. Like I love them to death. Like my grandmother, my grandfather, very influential pieces to my life. My grandmother passed away last year and my grandfather passed away in 2011. But I hold on to some dear memories that I formed with them over the years. All of the talks, all of the stories from the past, you know, all of those things just kind of help shape who I am. And I love that even though they're gone now, I love the fact that I had the opportunity to grow up with them. You know, so many people don't have that opportunity. I'm glad that they were in my life and that I was able to be a sponge and just soak up all of the information that they had to give to me. So family being important, my grandmother and grandfather, they definitely had a big role in my life. And holidays, like we celebrate, because my family is so small, I have a very small family. And because of that, we try to get together, you know, as much as we possibly can. Most of the time it's during holidays. So, or if not, but we get together during holidays as well as, you know, special occasions. So milestone birthdays, graduations, once again, you know, weddings, things of that nature, big occasions, big celebrations, we'll all get together. Christmas and Thanksgiving is really our two favorite holidays. It's just the perfect time of year anyway. People are happy, people are joyful, people are thankful, and that spirit is what we love. You know, we all have a spirit of gratefulness, of thankfulness, and we just love each other so much. My cousins, I don't have very many cousins, but and we're not as close as we used to be because we've grown and we've moved, you know, but we do still try to see each other and talk whenever we can. I just have a special place in my heart for my family, and I'll do anything for them. They really are a big piece of who I am. They are why I am the way I am. They are everything, you know, they're my everything. Last but not least, going to college really changed my life. I remember when I was in the 7th grade and I was in a science class and we were doing experiments and I just really loved it. And I was like, wow, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a science teacher. You know, that was my thought at the time. I was like, I could really do this. I want to help people. I want to be, you know, I want to influence somebody in a positive way. I knew at that time, my mind frame at that time was, I want to teach. I want to help students. You know, I want to help people. And, you know, so that kind of stuck with me for a little bit. I went to college in 2008 and I changed my major 1,000 times, but it's okay. I graduated. But it was a struggle, I will say. You know, long story short, I struggled for a while. The death of my grandfather really, really affected me in 2011. So things went way downhill. I was at my lowest point at that moment in time. I didn't know what to do. You know, I was depressed. I was stressed out. You know, I was working. I was going to school. I was doing all of these things and I wasn't allowing myself to grieve. And then when I did grieve, it was just a mess. And so one day I had to really sit and think, what are you doing with your life? You know, you have to get up. You have to get your life together. You got to do something. I really reflected on my life at that time and I had to give myself a pep talk. And, you know, I did what I needed to do to graduate. However, when I graduated, my GPA was not that great because of everything else that was going on. You know, the lack of study skills, the fact that I was grieving and I just checked out for a long period of time, you know, so I wasn't doing work. I wasn't going to class. I wasn't doing any of those things, you know, And so when I graduated, my GPA wasn't that great. And my degree was sociology and anthropology. And I knew, like, in my mind, I knew that I had to do something else, because I knew that what I wanted to do, which what I wanted to do changed 1,000 times as well. But I knew that what I wanted to do was going to require a master's degree. So I applied for graduate school, and thank God, they accepted me. And I really was grateful for the opportunity, because they didn't have to do that. They accepted me on a probationary status. And I felt like I had to prove myself. I felt like, let me prove myself to myself, not to anybody else, but to myself. And let me do something positive with this, so that I can, have a future, a good future, so that I can have a career when I'm done with this. I wanted to set myself up for success. And so when I went to graduate school, I knocked it out. It was hard. Some of the things were hard. But some of the classes weren't, because, I was really enjoying it. I was really enjoying learning about people, learning about society. I was enjoying looking through another lens to be able to understand everything around me, and to understand why people do what they do, why they make the decisions they make. And essentially what has gotten them to the place that they're currently at. That has allowed me to interact with people differently. That has allowed me to have some kind of sympathy, or to understand, or to move differently in different things that I'm doing. I'm able to see things much differently. I'm able to see from different perspectives, because of that, because of those graduate courses. And I'm really, really thankful for them. My degree, was clinical sociology. And at the time, I thought that I wanted to be, I really thought I wanted to be like a therapist of some sort, and then I wanted to be a school counselor later on, and then it all came back around to teaching. So here I am now. I'm teaching. I do not want to stay in the classroom for a long time. I do still want to do school counseling. And so I will move into that, a little later on. But I will say that even though the whole process, everything that I've done was kind of just out of the way and in a big circle, it was just all over the place, I truly believe that everything happened for a reason. I'm a true believer in that. And, I know that in my mind, I'm thinking like, I wish I would have just did this before. I wish I would have did it at all. But, had I never taken those courses, I would never probably be able to understand things, or, in a different way, or be able to see things in a different perspective, or to understand why things are the way that they are, why people are the way that they are, which really is beneficial, especially with me teaching, especially being in the field that I'm in now. These things are very important, and I'm seeing these things come in full circle. I'm being reminded of things that I've learned a couple years ago when I graduated in 2015, and so I think that when I went to school in Valdosta, all of those years, I started in 2008, I left in 2015 with my graduate degree, and the course, over the course of those years, I've learned so much, I've grown so much, and I'm just really appreciative for that opportunity, because it really has made me who I am today. Along with those other factors, everything is working together, for the good. Last but not least, I love this quote: "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." Because I think about my life, and I think about the different struggles that I've had, and I think about the fact that keeping God first is really what has gotten me to the place that I am today. And no matter how hard things get, and no matter how crazy things get, I know that I can do it. I set the bar high for myself, and I set goals, and although sometimes, I may be off my game a little bit, I try to reconnect, and I try to remind myself of this, that I can do it. And with God, all things are possible. This is the driving force and what keeps me going. This is my strength. This is everything to me. My faith, my family, all of those things, all of these things, like I said before, work together for the good. And I'm just so thankful for all of these things in my life.